The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by any species. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed inside it. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform, and today every seat was filled. Representatives from 200 species had gathered to witness something historic. Kim Do-hyun stood at the center of the platform. He was 58 years old with gray hair and calm eyes. He had served as Earth's ambassador to the coalition for 15 years. Beside him stood Park Yuna, his young assistant. She was 34, with sharp features and even sharper intelligence. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her face showed nothing. High Arbiter Velos rose from his elevated seat. He was a Veloci, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His voice echoed through the massive chamber. The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding the species known as humanity. Do-hyun did not move. He had known this moment was coming for months. The complaints against Earth had been growing louder every year. The Veloci said humans were too aggressive in trade negotiations. The Marathi claimed human culture was spreading too fast and changing their youth. The Keth simply said humans made them uncomfortable. After careful consideration of all evidence presented, Velos continued, this council finds humanity guilty of destabilizing coalition harmony. The sentence is immediate expulsion from the interstellar coalition. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some species looked satisfied, others seemed uncertain, a few looked worried. Humanity has 1 standard year to remove all personnel, technology, and infrastructure from coalition space. After this period, any human found in coalition territory will be arrested. Velos sat down. The chamber fell silent. Everyone waited to see how the humans would react. Do-hyun took a slow breath. He had prepared many speeches for this moment. Angry speeches, sad speeches, speeches that listed everything humanity had done for the coalition over the past 30 years. But now, standing in this great hall, he realized that none of those speeches mattered. If the coalition wanted humanity gone, then humanity would go. He bowed respectfully to the High Arbiter. We understand. We will comply. That was all. 5 words. Yuna began gathering their documents. Her movements were calm and efficient. Inside, she was burning with anger. She wanted to scream at these ungrateful aliens. She wanted to remind them of the hospitals humans had built, the famines humans had stopped, the wars humans had prevented. But she followed her ambassador's lead and said nothing. The other ambassadors watched in confusion. They had expected drama. Humans were famous for their emotional outbursts and passionate arguments. This quiet acceptance was unsettling. The Marathi ambassador leaned toward the Veloci delegate beside him. That's it? No protest? No threats? Perhaps they are planning something, the Veloci whispered back. We should be careful. But Do-hyun was not planning anything. He was simply tired. Tired of proving humanity's worth to species who did not want to see it. Tired of being blamed for problems humans had not caused. Tired of fighting for a seat at a table where they were not wanted. He walked out of the chamber with Yuna beside him. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Back on their ship, Do-hyun sat heavily in his chair. Yuna finally let her anger show. How can you be so calm? She demanded. After everything we've done for them. We built half their infrastructure, we trained their doctors, we protected their borders. And this is how they repay us? Do-hyun smiled sadly. They do not see it that way. They see only what they want to see. We are different from them, and that makes them afraid. So we just leave? We just accept this injustice? What would you have me do, Yuna? Start a war? Make threats? Beg for mercy? He shook his head. No. We will leave with our dignity intact. And one day, they will understand what they have lost. Yuna was not satisfied with this answer, but she respected her ambassador too much to argue further. Within hours, the news reached Earth. The reaction was surprisingly calm. There was anger, yes. There was hurt. But there was also a strange sense of relief. For 30 years, humanity had tried to fit into the coalition. They had changed themselves, softened their culture, hidden their true nature. And still, it had not been enough. Maybe it was time to stop trying. Captain Lee Ji-woo received his orders on Station Kepler, humanity's largest base in coalition space. He was a military man, 45 years old, with a face that rarely showed emotion, but when he read the message, his jaw tightened. "Begin evacuation procedures," he told his crew. "We have 1 year to pack up 30 years of work. Let's get started." His officers moved to obey. There were no complaints, no questions. They were professionals. In the following days, human ships began arriving at every station and colony where humans lived. Families packed their belongings. Businesses closed their doors. Schools held their final classes. The coalition watched and waited for the explosion of anger that never came. On a small trading post near the border, a Keth merchant approached a human shopkeeper who was packing her goods. "You are really leaving?" the Keth asked. "Just like that?" The woman smiled politely. "Just like that." "But why do you not fight? Why do you not argue?" The woman paused her packing. She looked at the Keth with eyes that held no anger, only a deep and patient sadness. "Because," she said softly, "you will understand soon enough. You do not need our words. You need our absence." The Keth did not understand what she meant, but he would. They all would. 6 months had passed since the exile began. Across coalition space, humans were leaving. They moved quietly, efficiently, without drama. They packed their tools, said goodbye to their neighbors, and boarded ships heading home to Earth. At first, no one noticed any problems. Then the water stopped working on Station Velar 7. Chief Engineer Baek Sun-ho was the last human technician on the station. He was 52 years old, with rough hands and tired eyes. He had spent 20 years building and maintaining the water systems that kept 50,000 aliens alive on this metal box floating in space. The Veloci station commander called him to the main control room in a panic. "The recycling systems are failing," the commander said. "We are losing clean water every hour. You must fix this." Sun-ho looked at the screens and nodded slowly. He had designed these systems himself. He knew every pipe, every filter, every pump. He could fix them in his sleep. But he also knew that his ship was leaving in 3 days. "I can repair the immediate problem," he said. "But the main filtration membranes are wearing out. They will need replacement within 2 years. Then we will replace them." Sun-ho hesitated. "The membranes are manufactured on Earth. The technology is human. You will need to find another supplier or develop your own." The commander waved his 4 arms dismissively. "We are the Veloci. We have built ships that cross galaxies. We can make simple water filters." Sun-ho did not argue. He simply fixed what he could, trained 3 Veloci engineers as best he could in 3 days, and left detailed instructions for everything else. When his ship departed, he looked back at the station through the window. He had built a home there. He had made friends there. And now he was leaving, knowing that everything he had created would slowly fall apart. Similar scenes played out across the coalition. On the Marathi homeworld, Dr. Han Mirai performed her final surgery. She was 41, one of the finest xenoneurologists in the galaxy. There were certain procedures that only she and 2 other doctors could perform, and both of those doctors were also human. Her patient was a young Marathi girl with a brain tumor. Without surgery, she would die within months. The operation took 14 hours. When it was over, Mirai was exhausted, but the girl would live. The Marathi health minister met her outside the operating room. "You have saved many lives here," he said. "We are grateful." Mirai smiled tiredly. "I have trained 3 of your surgeons. They are talented. They will learn. She did not say what she was thinking. She did not say that her 3 students were years away from being able to perform such complex operations. She did not say that many patients would die while they learned. What was the point? The decision had been made. Humans were leaving. On the border worlds, human teachers closed their schools. These were places where human children had studied alongside alien children, learning each other's languages and cultures. Some of those alien children cried when their human friends left. Their parents watched awkwardly, not knowing what to say. Human traders shut down their shops. They sold exotic goods from Earth that could not be found anywhere else. Chocolate, coffee, silk, music, books. The aliens who had grown to love these things suddenly found them unavailable. Human patrol ships withdrew from the dangerous trade routes they had guarded for decades. They had done this work voluntarily, without payment, simply because they believed in protecting the innocent. No one had officially thanked them. No one had officially acknowledged what they did. But the pirates and raiders who hid in those dark corners of space noticed immediately when the human ships disappeared. Corporal Yoon Taiwan was a young soldier assigned to help evacuate human civilians from a small colony world. He was 29, still idealistic, still believing that the universe was basically fair. The exile was teaching him otherwise. He watched as an old human woman said goodbye to her Delori neighbors. They had lived side by side for 40 years. The Delori woman was crying. The human woman was not. "Why are they sending you away?" the Delori asked. "You have done nothing wrong." The old human woman patted her neighbor's arm gently. "Politics," she said. "It is always politics, but do not be sad. We will be fine, and you will be fine too." She was lying, Taewon realized. She did not believe they would be fine. But she said it anyway, to comfort her friend. That was the thing about humans that the Coalition had never understood. They did not help others to receive thanks. They did not build things to gain power. They simply saw problems and fixed them, saw suffering and eased it, saw need and filled it. And now they were leaving, quietly, without anger, without demands. Taewon helped the old woman carry her bags to the transport ship. As he loaded her belongings, he asked the question that had been bothering him for months. "Ma'am, why are we not fighting this? Why are we just accepting it?" The old woman looked at him with knowing eyes. "Because, young man, the loudest argument is sometimes silence. They will understand what we meant to them. Not because we tell them, but because we are no longer there to show them." Taewon did not fully understand, but 6 months later, when the reports of chaos started coming in from across Coalition space, he remembered her words. By the end of the year, every human was gone. The Coalition celebrated their departure with official ceremonies and speeches about peace and stability. The silence that followed was deafening. 1 year after the exile, the Galactic Council held its annual summit. It was supposed to be a celebration. For the first time in 30 years, there would be no humans in the Great Hall. No unpredictable, emotional, troublesome humans to complicate matters. High Arbiter Velos opened the proceedings with a smile on his blue face. "Welcome, honored representatives. This summit marks a new era of peace and stability for our coalition." The first sign of trouble came within the hour. The Veloci delegation accused the Marathi of unfair trading practices. They claimed Marathi merchants were charging too much for medical supplies. The Marathi responded with anger. They said the Veloci were trying to control the market. Velos tried to calm both sides, but he quickly realized he did not know how. For the past 20 years, human diplomats had quietly mediated such disputes. They would talk to both sides separately, find common ground, and suggest compromises that everyone could accept. Velos had never learned how to do this himself. He had never needed to. The argument grew louder. Other species began taking sides. Within 3 hours, The summit had become a shouting match. Meanwhile, on the border worlds, pirates were attacking trade ships almost daily. Human patrol ships had guarded these routes for decades. Most species had not even realized this. They thought the routes were simply safe. Now they learned the truth the hard way. Trade fell by 40% in 6 months. Goods that used to flow freely between worlds became scarce. Prices rose. Economies suffered. On 2 agricultural colonies, crops began failing. Human farming experts had been quietly improving soil and seeds for years. They had never asked for credit. They had just done the work because it needed doing. Now they were gone, and the next generation of improved seeds would never be planted. Famine spread slowly at first, then faster. Thousands died on worlds that had never known hunger while humans were there. The worst disaster came in the outer reaches. A plague broke out on a small moon colony. It was a sickness that appeared every few years. Human medical ships had always contained it quickly with vaccines and treatment. This time, no human ships came. The plague spread to 3 more colonies before anyone managed to stop it. By then, 200,000 people were dead. Back on Earth, Admiral Choi Yunbi watched the reports coming in from Coalition space. She was 61 years old, a military commander who had spent her career protecting humanity's interests among the stars. Now her job was different. Now she was leading humanity's new mission, exploring the unknown regions beyond Coalition territory. Her aide, Lieutenant Kang Ji-hyun, brought her the latest news. "The plague in the outer reaches has finally been contained," Ji-hyun said. "But the death toll is rising. Several coalition members are blaming each other for the slow response." Yunbi nodded without expression. "And the border conflicts?" "3 new ones this week. The Keth have completely isolated themselves. The Delori are threatening to leave the coalition entirely." "I see." Ji-hyun hesitated. "Admiral, should we offer help? We could send medical ships. We could—" "No." Yunbi's voice was firm, but not unkind. "They did not want our help when we offered it freely. They will not accept it now." "But people are dying." "People die every day, Lieutenant. We cannot save everyone, especially those who push us away." Ji-hyun fell silent. She understood the logic, but it still felt wrong. Yunbi turned to look out her window at the massive construction projects filling Earth's orbit. Generation ships, each one capable of carrying millions of humans to distant galaxies. Exploration vessels equipped with the most advanced technology humanity had ever created. Research stations pushing the limits of physics. "We are not sitting idle," Yunbi said. "We are building a future that does not depend on the coalition's approval. Let them sort out their own problems. They wanted to do it without us. Now they can." Professor Seo Dong-wook was leading the most important project of all. He was 55, a brilliant physicist who had dedicated his life to understanding the nature of space and time. His team was developing a new kind of engine, one that could travel faster than anything in the Coalition's fleet. The work was going well. Without the constant demands of coalition politics, humanity's scientists could focus entirely on research. Without the need to share everything with suspicious allies, they could push forward without restraint. Earth was not mourning its exile. Earth was thriving. At the 2nd annual summit after the exile, the mood was very different. There were no celebrations. The Great Hall was filled with tension and fear. Species that had once been allies were now barely speaking to each other. Velo sat in his elevated chair and looked down at the chaos below. He had thought that removing humans would bring peace. Instead, it had brought the opposite. For the first time, he began to wonder if the Council had made a mistake. He did not share this thought with anyone. Not yet. But the doubt was growing, and it would not go away. Outside, the stars continued to shine. Somewhere beyond Coalition space, human ships were exploring new worlds, discovering new wonders, building a new civilization. They did not look back. They did not need to. The universe was vast, and humanity was just getting started. He lay in his chambers, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had gone wrong. The coalition was falling apart. Not quickly, not dramatically, but steadily, like a building with a cracked foundation slowly crumbling. The Veloci economy had shrunk by almost a quarter. Trade routes were dangerous. Manufacturing was struggling. And every time his people tried to fix a problem, they discovered that humans had built more of their infrastructure than anyone had realized. The Marathi were fighting 3 different rebellions. Groups that had been peaceful for decades were suddenly angry and violent. Marathi historians traced the peace back to human mediators who had quietly resolved old conflicts. Without those mediators, the old wounds had reopened. The Keth had retreated entirely. They had always been a suspicious species, slow to trust others. Humans had been the bridge between them and the rest of the coalition. Now that bridge was gone, and the Keth wanted nothing to do with anyone. 12 minor species had formally left the coalition. They said it no longer served their interests. They said no one listened to their concerns. They were right. Humans had always listened. Humans had always found ways to help the small and the weak. No one else had bothered. Velos got up and walked to his office. He called up old records on his computer screen. He wanted to understand exactly what humanity had contributed during their 30 years in the coalition. The numbers shocked him. 847 interspecies disputes mediated, not resolved by force or threats, but through patient conversation and careful compromise. 34 developing worlds given free infrastructure, power plants, water systems, communication networks, hospitals, all built by human engineers, all maintained by human technicians, all provided without asking for anything in return. 12,000 technological patents shared openly. Other species charged enormous fees for their inventions. Humans gave theirs away, asking only that they be used to help people. 50,000 alien professionals trained in human schools. Doctors, engineers, teachers, diplomats. They had learned from humanity and returned to their own worlds with new skills and new ideas. 156 contested border systems kept peaceful by human patrol ships, ships that received no payment, no recognition, no thanks. Velos sat back in his chair, feeling something he had not felt in a very long time. Shame. Why, he wondered. Why had humans done so much for species that never appreciated them? He searched through old diplomatic records until he found an interview given by Ambassador Kim Do-hyun shortly after the exile. A journalist had asked him the same question. Do-hyun's answer was simple. Humans do not help others to receive gratitude. We help because we can. Because every species struggles, and kindness costs us nothing we cannot spare. The coalition will realize what we contributed, not because we will tell them, but because our absence will speak for us. Velos read those words 3 times. Then he closed his eyes and let out a long breath. The humans had known. They had known exactly what would happen when they left. They had not argued or protested because they knew that words would mean nothing. Only experience would teach the coalition the truth. And now, 3 years later, the lesson was finally sinking in. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. His aide entered with a data tablet. High Arbiter, there is news from beyond Coalition space. The humans have made an announcement. Velos took the tablet and watched the recording. A human scientist named Seo Dongwook stood before a crowd of other humans. Behind him, a massive ship floated in orbit around Earth. It was unlike anything Velos had ever seen. Today, we successfully tested the Horizon Drive, Dongwook announced. This new propulsion system is 10 times faster than current technology. With this engine, we can reach the Andromeda Galaxy within a single human generation. The crowd cheered. Dongwook smiled proudly. Humanity will continue exploring, as we have always done. The universe is vast, and we intend to see all of it. Velos turned off the recording. His hands were trembling. In 3 years, humanity had developed technology that made the entire coalition fleet look like toys. In 3 years, they had gone from exiled outcasts to pioneers of a new age of exploration. And they had done it without the coalition's help, without anyone's help. Velos finally understood the truth. Humanity had never needed the coalition. They had joined because they wanted to help. They had stayed because they believed in cooperation. And when they were pushed away, they did not collapse or beg for forgiveness. They simply moved on and became stronger. The coalition, on the other hand, was discovering that it had needed humanity far more than it had ever admitted. Velos made a decision. It was not an easy decision. It would require him to admit that he had been wrong. It would require him to humble himself before a species he had once dismissed. But it was the right decision. He began drafting a message to Earth. Outside his window, the stars were the same as they had always been, but everything else had changed. The galaxy that Velos thought he understood was revealing itself to be something far more complex. And at the center of that complexity, quiet and patient, humanity waited to see what would happen next. 5 years after the exile, Kim Do-yun was working in his garden when the message arrived. He had retired from diplomacy after returning to Earth. Now he spent his days growing vegetables and reading books. It was a quiet life, far removed from the great halls and political battles of his past. He liked it that way, but some things could not be ignored. His computer chimed with a priority alert. He wiped the dirt from his hands and walked inside to read the message. It was from the Galactic Council, addressed to all of humanity. Do-hyun read it slowly, then read it again to make sure he understood. He called Park Yuna immediately. She was a senior diplomat now, one of the most respected voices in Earth's government. "Have you seen the Coalition's message?" he asked. Yuna's face appeared on his screen. She was smiling, but there was something complicated in her eyes. "I'm reading it now. They want us back." The message was remarkable. The Galactic Council formally apologized for the exile. They acknowledged that they had been wrong. They admitted that humanity's contributions had been essential to the Coalition's success. They requested, very politely, that humans consider returning. The offer was generous: full restoration of membership, permanent seats on the High Council, formal recognition of human territory beyond Coalition space, trade agreements that favored Earth, technology sharing arrangements that respected human patents. It was everything humanity had wanted 5 years ago, everything they had been denied. Admiral Choi Yunbi called a meeting of Earth's leadership to discuss the offer. The conference room was filled with the people who had guided humanity through the exile: military commanders, scientists, diplomats, engineers. "We have a decision to make," Yunbi said. "We could accept this offer and return to the Coalition. We could rebuild what we had before. Or," said Professor Seo Dongwook, "we could continue our current path, exploring new galaxies, building a civilization that does not need anyone's permission." "Why not both?" Commander Kang Ji-hyun spoke up. She had been promoted 3 times in 5 years. She was no longer the uncertain young lieutenant who had questioned the exile. "We have grown. We are not the same humanity that was pushed out. We do not need to choose between the Coalition and independence." Dr. Han Mirai attended the meeting through a hologram. She was still the finest xenoneurologist in the galaxy, and she had opinions. "There are patients in Coalition space who need care that only we can provide," she said. "I have thought about them every day for 5 years. I would like to return to them." Engineer Baek Sun-ho nodded in agreement. "And there are systems I built that are failing: water recyclers, power plants, communication networks. I would like to fix them before they break completely." Professor Dongwook smiled. "We could share our new technology with them: the Horizon Drive, the advanced medical equipment, the agricultural improvements. We could give it freely, as we always have. Not because we need them, but because that is who we are. The discussion continued for hours. Some argued that the coalition had shown its true feelings when it exiled humanity. They said returning would be foolish. Others argued that holding grudges was not the human way. They said returning would prove that humanity was better than those who had wronged them. In the end, Do-yun was asked to give his recommendation. He was no longer an official leader, but his experience and wisdom still carried weight. He thought carefully before speaking. "When I was young," he said, "I believed that respect had to be earned through strength. I thought that power came from force and intimidation. I was wrong." He looked around the room at the faces of people who had built something incredible in just 5 years. True strength is not about conquering others. It is about knowing who you are and acting accordingly. We are humans. We help those who need help. We build things that last. We teach those who want to learn. We do these things not because we expect rewards, but because it is right. He paused, gathering his thoughts. The coalition hurt us. They pushed us away when we had done nothing but serve them. That pain is real, and we should not pretend otherwise. But we are stronger now. We do not need their approval. And because we do not need it, we can offer something even more valuable: forgiveness. The vote was held that evening. Humanity would return to the coalition, but on their own terms. 1 year later, human ships entered coalition space for the first time in 6 years. They came not as refugees seeking shelter, not as servants seeking masters, but as equals seeking partners. The reinstallation ceremony was held in the Great Hall where the exile had been pronounced. This time, the mood was very different. There were no accusations, no suspicion, no fear, only hope. High Arbiter Velos approached Ambassador Do-yun after the ceremony. The old diplomat had come out of retirement for this moment. "I must ask you something," Velos said quietly. "When we exiled you, were you not angry? Did you not want revenge?" Do-yun considered the question for a long moment. "We were disappointed," he admitted. "We were hurt. But revenge? No. Revenge is for those who have something to prove. We knew who we were. We knew what we had given. We knew that eventually you would understand." He smiled, a gentle expression that Velos was only now learning to read. "The loudest statement is sometimes silence, High Arbiter, and the greatest proof of value is absence. You did not need our words to understand what we meant to you. You needed our absence." Velos bowed his head. "We understand now." "I know," Do-yun said. "That is why we came back." Outside the Great Hall, human and alien children played together, just as they had before the exile. Human doctors returned to their hospitals. Human engineers returned to their projects. Human teachers returned to their schools. But something had changed. Humanity no longer sought approval. They no longer tried to fit in. They simply did what they had always done: helped, built, taught, and explored. And the galaxy finally understood just how lucky it was to have them.